Hello there and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And today it's time for some more watch discussion because I know lots of you really like talking about wristwatches. These are the videos which always get the highest number of views. So it's always lovely to have a chat about it because it's my favourite subject. And today I've got a question or a conundrum from a viewer. It'll take me a moment to read it out, but we'll definitely have some discussion in the end. Now, in keeping with many YouTube sort of content on wristwatches, I'm going to tell you the watch that I'm wearing. My wristwatch today is the Rolex GMT Master 2 in the Pepsi variety with the Jubilee bezel. And it's a watch I've owned for probably 9 or 10 months now. Lovely, lovely watch, really enjoying it. I love those blue and red colours, which work perfectly in the summer months. So, more about that later because it's relevant in a way. And now this question comes from Thomas. And here he says, right, hope you're well. I enjoy your videos. I want your thoughts on the topic of Rolex availability. And Thomas here tells us something of his own watch journey, which I always love hearing people's wristwatch, journeys. I collect mostly vintage watches, but over the years I've purchased a Milgauss in 2008 and a 39mm Explorer 1 in 2017. Both watches were purchased in my hometown in Boucherat in Geneva in Switzerland. In 2018, I moved to Paris and my Explorer, which I wear daily, broke down about 2 months ago. I dropped the watch in to be serviced at an AD in Paris, for whom I had no prior relationship. They fixed it and I was quite happy with their service. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected call from Boucherat in Geneva. Back in 2020, while in Geneva, I stopped by the Rolex AD and asked if they could put me down as a candidate for a yellow dial Oyster Perpetual 36mm. Beautiful watch. I hadn't seen the watch in the flesh, but I thought, why not? I had just sold my Milgauss, which I purchased unseen in 2008, and I had never worn it, finding it too big, too busy, and too shiny. I thought I could put the money into another model. In any case, Boucherat called me. I hadn't heard from them since I went in that store a few years ago, and they called me to say that even though it had been recently discontinued, they had received a 36mm yellow dial Oyster Perpetual and they were keeping it for me. I was wondering if the service on my Explorer 1 in Paris had triggered something in the Rolex database, or was it simply coincidence? Well, I'll answer that first of all, Thomas. I very much doubt that your journeying to an authorised dealer in Paris and having your watch repaired will have made any consequence to Rolex at all. I know what you're thinking. You think that they've seen in some way that you've used an authorised dealer to have your watch fixed, presumably, and that has reminded them you were a customer and it's, caused them to send the watch your way. The truthful reality is almost certainly not. The authorised dealer in Boucherat, where you put your name down, they don't have a database which is linked to Rolex in any way. All right, so they keep their own sort of records, and when you went in and put your name down, so to speak, when I say put your name down, we always think in terms of a list, a waiting list. Truth is, we know it's not actually like that at all. The authorized dealers all have some way that they will select their customers. Typically, it's going to be preference based on the amount of business you put their way, or quite simply, occasionally they just throw, any excess pieces out to their customers. I think in your case, it's just that you've been a customer twice in the past, and they've thought that, yes, you're a good prospect. We will perhaps offer you another piece, which may trigger you to put your name forward for another piece. So I don't think there's any connection between you going into the authorized dealer in Paris and actually you receiving the call. Let's put that to bed, but you continue. In any case, I was very surprised by my buying, because my buying history in Boucherat in Geneva is very thin. I'd bought only 2 watches in 12 years. I'm no longer a local resident. I basically thought they'd never call. Well, yeah. you know, these things are very strange. When I took my, when I received a call to collect my Pepsi last year, I didn't even know I was on a waiting list for this watch. I'd simply purchased a Submariner from a store about 3 years previously and had a verbal conversation with the jeweler in that store and said, you know, if ever a Pepsi becomes available, I would be very interested. I didn't fill in any forms, nothing at all. So lo and behold, I was flabbergasted some 3 years later when I get a call out of the blue by the same jeweler that I spoke to, who told me, that Pepsi you asked for, sir, it's here ready for you if you want it. And of course the Pepsi at that time, October 2021, was a hugely desirable watch which was trading for twice or three times its retail value on the secondary market. So effectively he was handing me a pile of money, and I'm not even that regular a customer. So these things do happen. You know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. And of course, let us not forget either that things are constantly changing in the world. At the time that I record this video, in early summer 2022, there's an enormous amount going on in the world. You know, geopolitically, there is a war taking place in Europe, from which, you know, many countries are impacted, particularly Russia, for instance, you know, have now been closed off to pretty much all trade. So any Rolex authorized dealers in Russia, I'm sure, are receiving nothing at all. So does that mean that those watches are now being rerouted to other authorized dealers elsewhere? I would suggest almost certainly. We also know that Rolex have brought into production another manufacturing facility in Geneva. So they've increased the pace of their manufacturing of wristwatches to try and keep track to some degree with the demand that they are having from people. I recently spoke to somebody in a watch club who told me that they've got a very strong relationship with their authorized dealer in another part of the world, and they let slip that they were receiving unprecedented numbers of Rolex watches from Rolex. You know, they were getting many more watches than they'd previously ever had. So it's entirely possible that they have turned up the pace in production and more watches are finding their way through. So, you know, lots of things are going on. But the bit that we can talk about really is hear what you say. Now comes the issue of value. Is it responsible today to wear a watch worth about £15,000 or more every day? Or should it even be worn at all? These are genuine questions, especially for the non-investor, speculator type like me, who are nevertheless responsible with money and respect the value of things. Is it possible to casually daily wear a watch worth the price of a small car? That was not my intention in the first place. I always liked the ochre yellow Oyster Perpetual and was always tempted to own a watch with a 36mm case. The OP's retail price is the brand's entry level, so the watch ticks many of my boxes. I will go ahead and purchase the OP and wear it and enjoy it. I kept the Milgauss in its box for 12 years, not knowing what to do with it, not really believing I would come to like it. In the end, I got nothing out of that experience. And there, sir, Thomas, I think you make the point which is so important and the answer to your question. It is very difficult for us ordinary people. I am very much like you, all right? I'm not a wealthy man. I am a person who saves my money and I make a small number of considered investments in things that bring me joy and pleasure. And for me, that is wristwatches, all right? So, you know, I have very few vices. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't drive fancy cars. The one thing that I do enjoy putting my money into is nice wristwatches, and for me typically it's been Rolex watches, because like you know, I'm not an investor, I'm a lover of wristwatches, but it's always good to know that if you buy a watch and you don't get on with it, you can always sell it on and not make a loss. And if you're a little bit lucky, you might make a small amount of money, you know, as a profit in the modern world because of the way Rolex is trading particularly well. So then we have the sort of issue, how is that going to make you feel? You're wearing a watch which probably has an original retail price of £5,000, yet it'll probably be trading vastly higher, 2 or 3 times that on the secondary market. So should you sell it, you could make that amount of money immediately. Is that going to play on your mind? And I think, yes, it does in a way, but it'll only play on your mind as much as you allow it to. I find myself in a similar situation with my Pepsi, my GMT Master. Because much like that Ochre Oyster Perpetual, you know, these watches are worth more if I was to sell it than I paid for it. And I'm conscious of that. You know, you get this sensation, should I baby the watch? Should I not wear it that often? Should I keep it in the safe? I don't want to get any scratches on it. I don't want, you know, potential robbers to see it on my wrist and mug me and steal it. And then, once you enter that mindset, you lose the enjoyment of the watch. And anytime you wear it, you're feeling conscious, you're worried, and you're concerned. And you won't enjoy it. And for me, I only own lovely wristwatches, Rolex watches, because I like to wear them. If I purely bought them to place in a safe, well, there would be no joy in it for me, and that's not a route I would go down. I simply buy my watches to wear. You will overcome that feeling. When you put that watch on your wrist, if you connect with it, you will wear it around. It'll become part of you. I wear this watch now every day, all of the time. In fact, I wear it in rotation with a number of other watches from my collection, so it's not on my wrist every day, but certainly I give it no thought when I'm wearing it. I'm not conscious of it. It's got scratches and dings already. Of course it has. It's a wristwatch. It's made of stainless steel. It's a tool watch. It's meant to be worn in such a fashion. So all I can say to you is, from my own experience, you will come to feel differently about that watch when it is on your wrist, and you won't think of it as this sort of, you know, iconic item that you're afraid to wear. That will pass and you will enjoy it. Now, when it comes to that ochre piece, of course, you are incredibly fortunate, because that watch obviously was in the delivery system prior to the watch being discontinued. It's arrived at the authorised dealer and they've allocated it to you. So you will be in possession of that yellow dial Oyster Perpetual, which has been discontinued in early 2022. So you have a watch which is now unique. You're unlikely, I would suggest, ever to walk into a room and find somebody else wearing the same watch. That is something wonderful, and you know, if you enjoy that watch, I'm sure you will have many years of fun. Of course, now they've discontinued the pink and the pink, the green, and the turquoise are all that you can buy in the 36mm range of Oyster Perpetual. So that yellow, it's a collector's piece, and it may be worth a fortune. All right, so I understand why you feel somewhat concerned about it, because there are of course people who are out there who are trying to collect the full range of colours for the Oyster Perpetual range, the stellar dial range, and you know, they might have got all of those other colours, but the one piece they're missing is the ochre, the yellow. And that watch, to the right person, it could be worth a fortune. So one way of looking at it, if you take possession of that watch, you buy it, and you don't love it, you can sell it, and it could open the door to buying a number of other pieces which can enter your collection in the future. Think of it like that. There is no gamble involved in this situation. If you buy it and love it, you've got a great watch. If you buy it and you don't connect with it, well, sell it on and buy something else. Keep the watch going in circulation. I'm sure you will find the path which is right for you. And I hope you've enjoyed this discussion today. If you have enjoyed this chat on wristwatches, it's only possible because somebody sent me a comment or a question. And you know, if you're in a position where you'd like my observation, please send me that comment or question. Drop it into the comment section below, or send me an email. You'll find my email address in the About section on the main YouTube page. If you've enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. Click the red button if you'd like to join as a subscriber, and if you'd like to practically support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, because in the show notes below you will find a link to the Buy Me a Coffee page, which would make me very happy. So until the next time, Thomas, let me know how you get on with that yellow Oyster Perpetual. Send me a picture. I'd love to see it on your wrist. Until the next time, take care of yourselves, and I will see you again very soon. Hello there folks, I just want to add a small postscript to this video because Thomas has been back in touch with me, and he's given me the good news that he went to Boucherer in Switzerland the other day, and he has collected his Oyster Perpetual 36mm in the ochre yellow dial. And here is a picture of the watch itself, now happily on his wrist. And while he was there, he asked the authorised dealer just to clear up some of the questions that he posed to me, and they confirmed that yes, as we thought, going for the service didn't affect his position on the list. It was simply a case that he had been a customer there, albeit an infrequent customer, but over a long period of time, and that is why they decided to apportion that watch to him. The authorised dealer had no idea why they had discontinued that very popular Oyster Perpetual stellar dial variety, the different types, colours of watches, and they had no idea, no inkling in advance that that was going to happen, even though they're one of the most prestigious authorised dealers in Switzerland itself. So it just goes to show, it doesn't matter where you are, you never know what Rolex are going to pull out of the hat. Thomas tells us that he is loving the watch. Its build quality, its beauty are exactly what he hoped for, and he's having a great experience wearing that watch on a day-to-day basis, and he would heartily recommend the Oyster Perpetual to anybody who's thinking of entering the Rolex world. And the Oyster Perpetual, albeit the entry level, has proved to be a remarkable piece for him. So there we go. Thanks for the update, Thomas. Hope you continue to love that watch, and we will see you again very soon.